I like to consider myself a very organized person, but I've learned over the years, and I'm grateful I did this, it's not important to have every single thing just perfect. That becomes very stressful. So, for example, if you came to my home, you wouldn't find everything just perfect, including this office behind me. I have things that are organized, some things that are lying on a desk. And for me, that's absolutely fine. But let me give you a practical example. I learned as a young man that I never look for my passport before I need it. Never. I never look for a birth cert when I don't need it. I always look for my passport. I always look for my birth certificate, not only when I need it, but I need it right now. So my wife and I, we keep important documents, including for our extended, our immediate family, I should say, in a location that we know where to get them when we need them right now. My wife is very good. For example, if we've been away for a few days, we flew somewhere, and even though we might be home very late, she will straight away put our passports into this location because she knows, as I do, 3 months from now, whenever we next need a passport, we need it right now. And the last thing we need to do is go looking for it. So I'm sure you can relate to that. In the same way with seminary, we can get the year off to a terrific start by bearing in mind a few things that will make an enormous difference. They don't take a lot of effort, but they will make a lot of difference, not only to our students, but to the families, local priesthood leaders, and so on. So they've been outlined in this document, but basically I certainly have found, not only in seminary and institute, there are people who would have gone if somebody had just invited them. You as a seminary teacher are not directly responsible to get all the students to your class. That is the responsibility of parents, local leaders, ward council, and so on. But clearly you can play a role in that. And sometimes a chat in a corridor for 5 minutes or an email or even a chat with a parent can make people aware, you could be attending this class, or your son or daughter could be attending this class, and it starts in 3 weeks' time. And I certainly can name people I know of who have been involved in seminary or institute simply because somebody made the effort to do that. So I'm not holding you responsible for every student, but just think about, is there a student that might attend your class if they were invited? And are you the person to do that, or is there somebody else? Maybe you can talk to someone else about doing that. Secondly, it's very important to set expectations very early in the school year. Now, teenagers and adults respond very well to routine. And what I mean by that is that if you in your first month are not very organized in terms of what you do in class and what you expect of your students, very quickly your students will get into that routine. As I said at the beginning, you don't have to get everything perfect, but what I mean by routine and setting expectations, you create an environment, not coercion or intimidation, that's against the gospel, but an environment where you expect students to do their reading. You expect students to be in attendance. You expect students to be sitting in the seat, if it's a live class, 5 minutes before the class begins. Now, expecting doesn't mean, again, coercion or in any way intimidating people or creating a contentious environment, but meaning what I do is my demeanor, the way I speak, I act as if that's what we should be doing. I assume you are reading scriptures and that you know you're supposed to be reading scriptures. This is to the student, and I behave in that way. And all my interaction with students makes that assumption. So you create an environment, you sit with them in that first week. If you have daily lessons, you have the opportunity in the first week to take maybe 10 or 15 minutes from each lesson for a couple of lessons to do this. Or if it's home study, very important at that first lesson to take a little bit of time. But also the first couple of weeks, take a little bit of time to explain to the student what's expected of them. For example, if it's home study, you expect students every week to turn in their home study journals from the previous week. You expect it. And what I mean by expecting it is that you talk about it. Again, you don't intimidate, but you say, John, have you got your work? Susan, have you got your work? I don't say things like, who has the work? I say, John, can I have yours? Susan, do you have yours? I call people by name because I expect them. Now, I don't embarrass people. I hope I don't do that. But I create an environment of expectation. The same with reading. 1 month into seminary, I certainly would be chatting to students, just finding out where are they with their reading goals. This year we have reading goals. 2020 to 21. Again, I would feel bad about being mean to students, but nevertheless, I'm not going to just check up maybe twice during term. By the way, are you doing a reading? It's a fundamental part of seminary. So every week I'm checking on this, not just once a month. I want to know where John is with his reading. That he might be fine during class for me to bring it up. If there's somebody who's very shy, I can chat to them by phone or talk to the parents, or if we're in the same ward, we can grab them in the corridor. So set expectations early and stick with those expectations. No intimidation, no coercion, but just in your environment in the class, this is what you expect students to do. Get into that routine very, very quickly. Finally, and this is important, and this will save a lot of hassle. Believe me, trust me, and I'm not being arrogant in this. I know what I'm talking about from observation over the years. If you do not keep parents and leaders in the loop, it's going to lead to problems. So, for example, if it comes up towards the end of the second term and it turns out Susan is not going to graduate because she didn't do all the reading, people are going to blame you. They won't always do that, but sometimes you'll find somebody will blame you. You didn't tell me, I didn't know. Obviously, the poor bishop is going to be under stress. People are going to talk to him and he didn't know. Maybe he should have known, but the bishop has 100 things to worry about. So keep parents in the loop. Now, I'm not here to tell you what way to do that. I'm talking about the principle. I've seen wonderful ways of doing it. Some teachers have a shared messenger group with parents, and once a week they send them a message. They let them know what we're doing next week and remind them of the reading, where the students should be at. Also, you could send once a month a little report, an informal type of report, an email with just 2 lines in it saying, I love John being in my class, just to let you know, he's a little bit behind on the reading. It's not a big concern, but in general, he should be at Alma 16, but in fact, he's at Mosiah chapter 8 or something like that. So please let me know if I can help in some way. In other words, keep parents in the loop. Keep your local leaders, especially the bishop or branch president, in the loop. Now, there's 2 reasons for that. The number one is, of course, the most important is to help our students. That's what we're doing, is to help our youth, not to be polishing up things later, not to be mopping up something at the end of the year and cramming and so on. Just once a week where relevant, once a month where relevant, keeping on top of things, checking where things are, and then keeping parents and or guardians and leaders in the loop as regards what's happening. That will make a big difference. So start the year off well and get it off to a good start and stick with that. And even those 3 points alone will make an enormous difference to your class. Obviously, there are many other points, and perhaps you're doing some of these already. And of course, I'm just offering them as suggestions. But please stay on top of these things during the year, because for most teachers, it becomes very, very stressful. And there's nothing worse than when it's close to the end of the year to find out a student that everybody assumed would be graduating this year is not actually going to be able to do that because they didn't turn in all their assignments or whatever it might be. So deal with it early in the year, get into the right habit, just like my passport and the birth cert. Deal with the important things, even though sometimes, including myself, other things get left by the wayside because I get so busy. But make sure you and let's make sure that we stick with the important things so major problems will not develop. Thank you.